My loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritually Boujee Astrology, and we're going to take a look at the astrological transits of June 21st to June 27th. Now, before we do any type of recap, breakdown, or anything along those lines, for those that listen to my Mercury retrograde video, I announced a flash sale on my one-on-one sessions that is going to last until the end of the month. So, literally, the last 2 weeks of July is the only time period I'm running this special. You can now go to the website, www.thespirituallyboujee.com, go to astrological services or astrological consultations. Um, Go to the one-on-ones and it literally says flash sale real big right at the front of it. And that is to let you know like that has been lowered temporarily. Now, you can do a one-on-one session for $35. It's normally $50. You can do a 90-minute session for $50. It's normally $70. So we're getting a good little reduction in there. Book those sessions while you can, especially for those that are going through the turmoil in this Mercury retrograde that is trying to understand the new vibration of what we're going to go into in eclipse season. I'm just doing this flash sale for this little bit because I know some people like things start to hit the fan in Mercury retrograde and you don't know which way to go. You look like a cartoon character doing this stuff right here, and you know how that goes. You can book some one-on-one time with me at a discounted rate. So take advantage of that while it lasts. I'm not running a special in the month of August. I didn't initially plan to do anything until September, until actual eclipse season, but it kind of came to me in meditation. This is probably the best thing to do. So for 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks of July, you can book a one-on-one session at a discounted rate. So there's that. Link's going to be in the description. Now. Mercury is retrograde, babies. Mercury is retrograde. And one of the things that I said about this particular Mercury retrograde is there's going to be things that get exposed. There are going to be things that come to light. And a lot of people, the things that come to light, the exposures that happen, there'll be a lot of people that are seen for the wrong reasons. We haven't seen anything like that in our, social media outlets or the headlines or anything like that. No. Hell of a time to be a CEO. Considering we're talking about a Mercury retrograde in the sign of Leo, which is a sign of power, haven't seen anything. No, not at all. We are meant to have certain things come to light. We are meant to see exposures. We are meant to deal with exposures. Now, not every exposure has to be bad. That's why you hear me often say, like, good, bad, or ugly. It really depends on your personal way of responding to things. If you have been honest and in good alignment, as well as going into that, remember to be in a responsive vibration versus a reactive vibration. But a lot of what's going to be happening over the course of this entire Mercury retrograde, which this is our first full week of, we started midweek last week. That's why I'm saying it that way. The certain amount of things that are going to come to light and get exposed in this temporary energy can still have a lingering, lasting, long effect. So make sure you are in alignment. Dot your I's, cross your T's, and be aware. However, be open-minded, be aware of your surroundings, and expect the unexpected to this week. Now, I've said that about the entire Mercury retrograde because this Mercury retrograde is hosting a slew of planets, but one in particular is Uranus. Expect the unexpected. But also understand that there is going to be other things about those planets being in Mercury sign during this Mercury retrograde that is going to feed into the vibration. And we're going to really see that come to a peak this week of certain people speaking out desires, of confessions, of secrets, of passions, especially the things that we wouldn't normally come out with, we wouldn't normally speak. But the thing is, if we're going through this need to voice this inner desire, something we wouldn't normally talk about, it's because the energy is welcoming to the idea of testing waters. Now, I really mean it when I say be receptive, but I also want to say this next part real clear. Do not lower your standards. Period. End of story. I don't care if it's a relationship. I don't care if it's in business. I don't care if it's with your family. Hold your boundaries. Do not lower your standards. Make sure you keep yourself at that high vibration. Even if people are coming towards you with their wounds, with their secrets, with their confessions, you are in control of who and what you entertain. That is going to be a big part of this week. Now, I'm sure you want to know why. We have two big transits to this week. The first one is the one that's speaking about all of these desires, is Venus in Gemini, in Mercury sign, is going to square Mars in Virgo, in Mercury sign. So there's this vibration of pushing a desire, pushing an opinion, pushing a passion, pushing a taste, pushing something that is going to put forth action. Now, if you push something in the healthy sense, oh gosh, this week can get real murky real fast. In the healthy sense, in the sense of like trying to achieve in a personal growth and personal goal sense, this can be a part of that strategic vibration of Mercury retrograde, that we're making strategic changes to get something going forward, because we know Mercury retrograde is going to feed into eclipse season and we want crap to stick. So we're going to do our best to test waters in a strategic way. And we're trying to stay in alignment. However, there will be tests. And there will be people that come through that feel suddenly that they can voice secrets, they can voice their passions, they can voice their desires. And that too can push a vibration of, should I take an action? I didn't know that they were interested in me. I didn't know that they cared about me. I didn't know that that could be a possibility. I don't know how I feel about it, so I want to test those waters. Please understand that people that suddenly want to test waters, they are doing it in temporary energy. Some people that suddenly feel the need that they can confess certain things because they think this is what they want. This is in temporary energy. And anyone that we start to potentially welcome in this week is most likely not going to last. And that'll be what comes through in eclipse season. So use this energy wisely. The thing about Venus and Mars, and when their energy starts to connect, intercept, do things with each other, there can be a lot of emotions, a lot of sexual desire, again, a lot of pride, a lot of passion, and a lot of need coming through. And Venus being in the higher authority of this square, I feel like it's more likely to be the feminine pushing their desires, pushing for some type of action or reaction. And again, if we're using this to be in alignment, we're trying to stick to a path, we're already been doing things in motion for quite some time, and we're trying to use this energy strategically and purposely, then you are fine. If we go into confession mode, or we start to pinpoint on people that we wouldn't normally pinpoint on, that's a red flag, and you are getting grabbed by the energy. Hear me as I'm saying this. Now, the thing about Venus and Mars is their square goes exact this week, but it was building all these last few days since the start of the retrograde. It will continue even after it goes exact all throughout the rest of the week. And that takes me to the next major transit that happens closer to the end of the week. And that's the new moon in Leo. Now, new moons are usually an energy of like revealing. And whenever the moon comes into the heart of the sun, we can reveal emotions. This is a new moon in Leo. We can reveal pride and things that we are prideful of. There are things that are going to be meant to come to light this week. But again, I say expect the unexpected. For some people, it will be exciting vibration, something exciting and new that we're taking forward. Because again, we are strategically using this energy in a purposeful way. However, Not everybody is trying to stay in control of their energy. So I'm letting you know that some of the things that can get revealed and come to light could be this temptation being given into, at least temporarily. Now, if you go into a situationship, and I feel like I got to be real clear about the sexual part of the desires with the Venus Mars stuff more so than the other, but it can still apply to the other. It's again just making sure we are doing things from an honest standpoint. But if we give in to certain desires, it can again feed into the temporary new. And sometimes the best way to know our decisions or understand the way that we're feeling or get something out of our system is to try something new, knowing we probably won't stick to it. If you go into a situationship this week of any sort, hookup culture, do your thing, I don't care, hop on the Tinder app, I don't care. It's whatever it is. I just want to try it out. I've never done it before. I want to test this. I want to see what it feels like. I want to see what it looks like. I want to be in that moment. I want to be in that energy. Okay. There's nothing wrong with testing the waters if you are being honest with yourself all the way through. Do not feed into delusion. So going off of the concept of an app, to be clear about this, you're not going to necessarily meet your Prince Charming, especially not in this temporary energy with Mercury being retrograde. But if you just want to play and you just want to have a little fun and you just want to do something a little bit different, it can be helpful. But I don't want people to go into high desires of giving into your secrets, giving into these deep-seated desires, letting certain things come to the surface, speaking our passion into reality, and thinking it is going to last forever, because in some ways it's not. In a lot of ways it's not. The thing about Mercury being retrograde is that some people will start to think backwards. And given Mercury is hosting so many planets, we're more likely to behave differently in our desires, in our tastes, in our passions that we wouldn't normally do, and behave in ways that we wouldn't normally try to be. Because again, people get grabbed by energy. If you see people acting out of character this week, if you feel yourself compelled to do something that you wouldn't normally do, check yourself. Am I doing this for my ego? New moon in Leo. Mercury retrograde in Leo. Am I doing this to satisfy my ego? Or is this something that speaks to the plan and the alignment that I've been working towards forever? If you can't answer that in a clear yes or no, take steps back. If you feel like you have to do this moment, recognize that we are in temporary energy. You are giving in to certain desires and certain needs in temporary energy. Whenever it comes to once the energy goes direct, specifically Mercury, then we might rethink the things that we're doing right now. But if you don't want to hurt people's feelings, or if you do not want to get hurt in the meantime, be aware that we are in temporary energy, because that's going to help a lot. Okay. We're not falling into love this week. We are understanding that deep-seated desires and deep-seated passions can lead to temporary situationships. I'm just going to say it that way. Okay. That's the biggest thing that I want to talk about at the beginning. That Mars Venus square has been so strong. It does go exact at the first part of the week. And then by the end of the week, we will be in a new moon in Leo. And that new moon, it has a lot of passion and it has a lot of pride. And it has a lot of vibration of setting something forward or allowing something to be seen. But with one element of this energy being very, very temporary, some people will showcase things that they're not going to stick to. So if we've had a plan well before this retrograde, try to stick to that original plan, because this energy can be a test to derail us in a multitude of ways. Okay. Okay. Moving along. We're going to get into the transit. Now, one of the big things that happened over the weekend was Mars hitting a conjunction to the South Node, and he's still separating from the South Node over the course of Monday. This went exact Sunday evening. There could be, again, disruptions that impacted the body, people's physical health, feeling certain things in their intestinal health, because again, Mercury rules the intestines, having something going wrong in that limb aspect, the duality. But for other people, there was this desire to cut something off, to cut someone off, to not give in, to not do certain things. And that can be a part of what we're dealing with on Monday still, of not wanting to take certain actions, or we are taking the actions to do the cutoff, because the South Node is a lot of times about release and purge. Now, the other thing about Mars in the South Node is there could be things tied to electrical or electrical issues. And I want to be clear about that, given Uranus is going to be playing a part of this energy, the energy this week too, as well as the Mars South Node. Electrical is something that I have to be very clear about. Okay. Now, between 5:30 and 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, so I got this now at 6:30, the moon is going to make a sextile to Mercury. So here's the moon 15:4, here's Mercury at 15:8. There's something about accepting a change, accepting a turn of events, accepting turns in information. And a lot of people are going to go into work on Monday learning about a change that either happened over the weekend or happened at the end of last week, like right as Mercury was going retrograde. Because remember, Mercury went retrograde Thursday overnight into Friday. And some things did play out on Friday for certain people. For other people, however, this can either be like the after effect of something from the previous event coming back to the surface. Oh, I didn't know so-and-so quit on Friday. I had no idea. I was busy. I was off. I was doing something else. And you get that lingering effect of coming in on Monday, of learning some kind of change. The moon hitting that sextile to Mercury can reactivate the vibration of Friday, because Venus was actually in a sextile to Mercury on Friday. That's why I'm bringing that part up. But for other people, it's nothing to do with Friday. It's a whole new energy of like, you're going into the office, you're talking to somebody first thing in the morning, and you're learning of a change of mindset, a change of opinion that needs to be accepted, or it needs to be spoken about, because the moon and Mercury are moving towards each other in this moment. Now, as we go through the afternoon, between 12:30 and 2:30 p.m., so I got this at 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to make a conjunction to Venus, talking about the appearance of something, talking about our desire, talking about the taste of something. But whenever the moon hits the conjunction to Venus, it's also starting its square to Mars. Venus is building to her exact square to Mars. It's not exact yet. We got a couple of days before it goes that way. But when the moon comes in, there could be that little bit of activation towards what's going to take place, because the moon will square Mars immediately after this. And if I put this at 2:30, it's kind of right in the middle. We're a little bit more past the Venus moon conjunction, but we are real tight on that start with a square to Mars. So there can be something in this afternoon time frame about talking about the appearance, talking about the taste, talking about an idea, talking about this desire, this thing that we want to push forward, and getting the support or getting the go ahead or getting the approval. Certain elements towards confessions can start up right here. I keep getting like the deep-seated secrets and confessions to this week, whatever I was meditating on this. But we can also be talking about a passion. We can have a certain secret come out, but it's not even directed at us. It might be more directed at another person. Be like, I got a crush on so-and-so, and I think I'm going to finally tell them. What? Why would you do that? What do you mean you want to tell them? Oh, they're coming around the corner. Like, the interaction is very tight there. But there can also be foreshadowing in this mid-afternoon time frame of the 21st that actually speaks to the 23rd, when that Venus-Mars goes more exact. So this can be feeding into a desire or steps or actions that we're going to be taking all throughout the week, but it's like we need the commitment of something first before we take our steps to action. The moon hits the conjunction of Venus again between 12:30 and 2:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. The moon will go through its square to Mars between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. So it's close to exact right around that 3 mark. But there is something here that speaks to the actions and the desires. Now, with the moon's squaring to Mars, the internalized energy of whatever the Mars South Node was over the course of the weekend might also be what's coming back up here. And there could be an energy of like questioning of somebody's actions or reactions, questioning why someone has done a cutoff, questioning somebody's actions in the past, and it still results in cutoff. Mars and the South Node are still in their conjunction. They are less than a degree apart. There can still be elements of cutoff. And considering we now have the sun at 29 degrees of Cancer, which usually speaks to a completion of something, anytime you have a planet at 29, that there's something that's getting completed. This completion or cutoff or action of dismissal of any sort, whatever tensions could be reigniting right here, or just igniting in general, or the attitude towards completion. Just be aware of that. Sometimes it's the tone and the action hasn't taken place yet. And we're talking about everything in Mercury signs. There's going to be a tone. But there is something that speaks to like elements of a finality, but not necessarily like a full on blowout per se. It's more along the lines of somebody can say something that you can internalize of, oh, that we're not talking anymore. We don't have to have the full blown conversation, but there can be some attitude, there can be some tension, there can be some frustrations just as much as there can be those elements of those secret hidden desires. So it's kind of a mixed bag, and it really kind of comes down to what needs to come to light and what truths need to come to the surface. Because for some people, it's going to be sexual. For other people, it is going to be judgmental. It is what it is. Okay. After the moon goes through its square to Mars, it's not really doing anything. And really, for some people, it will feel like the rest of Monday evening is almost kind of vacant because there isn't a whole lot going on with the moon. The next transit we have with the moon is actually going to be on the 22nd. So it's going to be right after midnight. And that's going to be between 1:30 and 3:30 a.m. So I just got this now at 1:30. Chiron in Mars's sign is going to be making a sextile to the moon. Now, one of the things I talked about last week is that when Chiron was going through its exact square to the sun, whatever started at the beginning of that Mercury retrograde, for some people also became the creation of a new wound or a reactivation towards wounds, but the awareness of a wound or the awareness of care or the awareness of something that we need healing from, but not necessarily where we'd be healing in that moment. This right here, whenever Chiron hits the sextile to the moon, it is in the overnight hours. So for some people, the human effect, this will play out on Monday evening. For other people, it can be more internalized. A lot of times with Chiron, I can see the internalized stuff too. And it's like voicing that something has hurt us, or it's voicing the actions we wish to take to heal something, but we're not actually able to take the actions. And this is why I'm saying it's a little bit more internalized. For some people, it is doing little things so we can feel a little bit better. But what I'm looking at is in this moment is Chiron is still in Mars's sign while Mars is still in that conjunction to the South Node. He hasn't completely separated yet. There still can be the awareness of cutoffs and wounds in the conversation or in the overnight downloads, because again, this is happening at 1:30, 2:30, and 3:30 in the morning. So just be aware of that. Now, as the day continues at 7:27 a.m. Central Standard Time, so I got this now at 7:30, the moon is going to go into Cancer. Now, what's going to be interesting is not only is the moon changing signs, but also in this first little bit between 7:30 and 8:30 in the morning, the sun is going to change signs. So this tells me that for some people, Tuesday can speak to an arrival of new information, an arrival of a new person, an arrival of new things that are going to come through that can literally start to generate, again, more actions and desires coming to the surface, but there can be a lot of revealing. the sun is changing signs, and the sun is going into its own home sign. It's going into Leo. We are starting Leo season right as the moon goes into Cancer. The arrival can be what pushes desires to the forefront. It can be what pushes for certain actions to be spoken. But the arrival of something new, or the ability to focus on something new, really comes through very, very quickly once the moon goes into Cancer. And it does feel like, even though we're in temporary energy of the Mercury retrograde, it still feels like something that we need to either nurture in some ways, moon in Cancer. In other ways, it is going to be a new emotion coming to the surface because the moon is in a cardinal sign in Cancer. Cancer is a cardinal sign. It's an investigative sign. It's a shit starting sign. New things is going to start. That doesn't have to be a bad thing, but considering we have the Venus Mars square building all day on the 22nd, it actually is going to go exact overnight from the 22nd into the 23rd. A lot of deep-seated emotions and desires of a multitude of sorts can be coming to the surface. So be aware of that. Okay. At 7:27, again, that is whenever the moon goes into Cancer. At 8:30 a.m., so I'm going to bump this an hour, the sun is in Leo right there at that 8:30 mark. And then the next thing that's going to happen is going to be between 9:30 and 11:30 a.m. So I'm going to bump this now to 10:30. And this is whenever the moon hits its exact square from Saturn. Now, Saturn square is going to be felt between 9:30 and 11:30. The square from Neptune is between 10 a.m. and noon. So really, we can say pretty much from the 9 a.m. mark to about 12 to 12:30, giving a bigger window because both planets are going to hit that square to the moon. And this is happening in those early degrees of a sign. Now, Saturn and Neptune are retrograde. They are moving backwards in the sky. So there can be new vibrations that speaks to we no longer support. We no longer want to do these certain things. We are no longer responsible for certain things. I'm not a part of this anymore. I don't go there anymore. I don't know them anymore. We don't talk. Can be the talk thing. There can also be things about I am no longer responsible, or they are no longer responsible. And because they are no longer responsible, again, we have something new that's unfolding, an opportunity for something new, because again, we have the moon and the sun newly arriving into new signs on this day. So there can be that arrival of something new, and we need something new because someone's no longer in support and somebody's no longer doing certain things. And one of the things we also said before is like Mercury's retrograde after after Saturn and Neptune turned retrograde can also be like, this is the reaction to something. Well, our reacting can be what's bringing the new things to the surface, what's bringing new people to the surface in a multitude of ways. Now, Saturn can be the elder, Saturn can be law, Saturn can be rules. We're no longer doing certain things. Somebody else is going to be in charge. Neptune can be about treatments for some people because there's been a lot of things towards medicine with Neptune in Aries. For some people, it will be about medicine. For other people, it is going to be about the lies, the fraud, the deception. We no longer believe certain things. And because we no longer believe them, it's allowing for something else to take shape and come to light. And again, those hidden secret things can be coming to the surface over the course of the 22nd and the 23rd. That can be a big part of this too. And because certain things are coming to the surface, certain truths are coming to the surface. I don't trust you anymore. I don't support you anymore. I don't like you anymore. Your presence is not necessary. Put a pin in that because we're going to come back to that same topic when we get to the new moon later in the week. All right. After the early morning squares, Saturn and Neptune squaring the moon, we don't have a whole lot more going on, but we do still have the moon in Cancer. So there can still be a lot of things towards emotions, things that we need to nurture, things that we need to take care of. We can have certain emotional responses that really kind of keep coming up to the surface. Venus and Mars are building to their square all day. So there can be a lot of emotional desires coming up to the surface. And we get into the late part of the day. Between 11 p.m. on the 22nd and 1 a.m. on the 23rd, the moon is going to hit this conjunction to Jupiter. This is meeting with the doctor, the guru, the teacher. This is asking of something from somebody that gives us hope. that gives us support, that teaches us certain things, asking for certain information. This can also be confessions of the husband, to the husband, of the husband. And there are going to be a lot of sexual desires. But given when the moon hits this conjunction to Jupiter, Venus and Mars are almost to their exact square. It is going exact overnight. It hasn't gone yet. This vibration can also speak to the negative impacts of our desires, or are the negative impacts to our secrets. And some of the things that might be getting voiced either late on the 22nd, early on the 23rd. So I'm going to just keep this going. And I'm going to remind everybody, this can be either one. Whatever can be getting confessed right here might speak to elements of jealousy. Those secrets can be a whole other thing. I don't like you being with that person. Some of you, you're going to be confessing other things more along the lines of like, I feel something for someone else. And you would tell this to a person that would normally be supportive, but it instigates a whole different level of emotion. Because again, the Venus-Mars square that is building, it is not exact yet, but it is about to go exact. We're just a few hours away, is happening in Mercury signs while Mercury is retrograde. But the moon hitting this conjunction to Jupiter can feel the need to confess certain emotions and certain desires, certain insecurities. Again, it can be about jealousies. I've seen you out with that person. I've seen the way you talk to your work buddy. I don't like it. I don't like the idea of you having a work wife. And there could be the things that speak to that other element. Again, the moon's conjunction to Jupiter, it starts at 11 p.m. on the 22nd. It continues until 1 a.m. on the 23rd. And while this is wrapping up, we also have another thing going on, and it is exact in this moment. And again, I am saying expect the unexpected. This is just one extra layer. What is the extra layer? Uranus is hitting that sextile to the sun. I have Uranus 0 degrees, 38 minutes. The sun is 0 degrees, 38 minutes. Expect the unexpected. Some of the confessions, some of the desires are going to be very unanticipated and unexpected. For other people, it is going to be exciting. That's a more positive way to look at the Uranus part. But what I'm also looking at is Uranus is in Mercury's sign. The Venus-Mars square goes the most exact at 3:06 to 3:47 a.m. So I'm going to bump this now to 3:30, and you're going to get the exact. Here's Venus, 21 degrees, 1 minute. Here is Mars, 21 degrees, 1 minute. Confessions, deep-seated desires, the downloads of the actions we wish to take and want to take, the grabs of certain energy is going to be very, very real Tuesday night going into Wednesday. And again, because we are looking at the sun newly in a sign, Uranus newly in a sign, we're going to be feeling compelled to take certain things that in some ways might not stick, but that doesn't mean that we believe that in this moment, but we feel very compelled to voice, to connect, to speak through, to talk about, to do certain things. Some people are going to be talking about their insecurities. Other people are going to be doing these deep-seated confessions. And with the moon being in Cancer, the emotions can flow. And whatever we're feeling is very, very real in this moment. And I want to be very clear about that. Okay. Now, as we keep going into the morning time, there's not a whole lot going on. In fact, our next transit is not going to happen until later in the evening. So we're going to be in a vibration all day that speaks to actions, desires, confessions, bringing things to the surface, doing these unexpected things, doing these shocking things, having certain shocking things kind of feed into the vibration. But whenever we get into the evening time, between 6:30 p.m. and 8:30 p.m., so I got it at 7:30, and it's almost exact right here. The moon, 21 degrees, 18 minutes, is going to hit a sextile to Mars. I just want to understand what you're working on. I just want to understand the actions that you're taking. I just want to understand the changes that you've made. I just want to understand the new policies. I want to understand the new procedure. I want to understand the changes that we're making. I just want to understand. Now, when the moon hits the sextile to Mars, remember Mars is hosting Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because the sun is entering its trine to Saturn and Neptune. It's not exact. It will actually be more exact on Thursday, but we can still be feeding into the need to understand certain things, the actions that we are taking to change something because somebody else is no longer part of the picture, no longer in support, no longer responsible. We can be asking questions again about these recent cutoffs, Mars hitting the conjunction to the South Node, the recent activities, the recent electrical issues, the recent sudden shifts, sudden changes, the recent vibration. I just want to understand something. I want to understand why you took this action. This does not feel heavy. And Venus is still in her square to Mars. So there can be extra layers to whatever Venus activated with Mars in the hours before. We're still very, very prevalent in it right now. And there can be an extra person that comes into the vibration of this desire, learning your best friend hooked up with their crush, finally confess something to their crush and it went a certain way. Like, what do you mean? You did what? Girl, you know what the witchy woman said? She said it's temporary energy. And remember that. I said temporary energy. Just be aware of that. There's nothing wrong. Just be aware. Okay. Again, the moon hits the sextile to Chiron between 6:30 and 8:30 p.m. You can, not Chiron, Mars. The moon hits the sextile to Mars. You can see that right here. There's nothing else going on to the 23rd. We're going to keep this going. We're now going to get into the 24th. And in the overnight hours between 4:30 and 6:30 a.m., Chiron, there we go, is going to square the moon. So I have Chiron 27 degrees, 8 minutes. Here's the moon 26:32. It's actually closer at that 5:30 mark. Yeah, it's almost exact right here. And this can feed into parts of the morning time of, again, being aware of an action we need to take because of a recent wound, because of a recent cutoff, because of a recent action. And feeling like something's coming to a turning point. It's not quite at the turning point quite yet, but it will be after we get closer to the end of the month. There is something here that's like, I can't keep doing something anymore because it's creating certain wounds, or it's hurting certain people's feelings, or it just doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't sit well with me. Chiron hitting that square to the moon. This can be a lot more of internal downloads. But considering over the course of the 24th, so of Thursday, we are going to actually go into our exact new moon in Leo. There are layers to where we're going to start seeing the next wave of the removal of support, or the defining actions or the defining reactions, creating a new wound that we can't immediately see. That's the best way I can describe this. Okay. Now, the moon is going to go into Leo between 6:08 and 6:32. I actually bumped this too far. I apologize. Between 6:08 and 6:32 a.m. Central Standard Time. This is whenever Saturn is going to hit its exact trine to the sun. So you can see this here. Here's Saturn, 1 degree, 49 minutes. Here's the sun, 1 degree, 49. There is something about this vibration, again, of like the elder no longer being in support, or no longer being a part of the process, no longer being a part of the action. I don't know that we're reacting to things immediately in this moment because now the moon is kind of void. I feel like it's going to be more once we get into the latter part of the daytime. At 10:30 a.m., you can see the moon goes directly into Leo. You can see that right here. The sun is getting closer to its trine with Neptune. Now, once the moon goes into Leo, we are a new moon vibration. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is at 2:11 p.m., we're at the new moon in Leo. But I feel like there's this new arrival of things that have started over the course of the last few days that's feeding into this new power dynamic. And this new power dynamic, it is a reaction in a lot of parts of the energy, because again, it is going to be a new moon in a trine with Saturn, in a trine with Neptune, in a sextile to Uranus, in an opposition to Pluto. We haven't even talked about Pluto yet, but he's playing into this too. Mercury is still retrograde in Leo. And the awareness of our changes, of our reactions, of the new desires, of the deep-seated things coming to the surface, can be triggering for some, exciting for others, but very, very eye-opening. And this really comes through as soon as the moon goes into Leo, even though we're not immediately in the new moon vibration. I mean, we are, but by degree, we're not. So be aware of that. Be aware that certain things are going to come to light and come to the surface and come newly into focus for good, for bad, and the ugly once the moon goes into Leo, because we are immediately in the new moon vibration, and it will go exact over the course of the day. So be aware of that. New power dynamics, new powerful energy. And it really kind of comes down to what we have recently disconnected from that is allowing something new to take shape, or where we've recently had openings from cutoffs that is allowing for a new response to take shape very, very quickly. Now, between 12:25 and 12:49 p.m. Central Standard Time, that is whenever the sun is going to go through its exact trine to Neptune. So you can see that right here. The moon is starting its trine with Saturn right here. It's getting close to its trine with Neptune. We're getting closer to the actual new moon. The new moon is going to go exact again at 2:11 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I got this now at 2:30. Here's the sun, 2 degrees, 9 minutes. Here's the moon, 2 degrees, 19. Remember, this moon is going to go through the trine with Saturn. It's going through the trine with Neptune. It goes through that sextile to Uranus, and it will also start its opposition to Pluto. Thursday has a lot of energy to it, because not only does the sun go through and hit certain elements, the moon goes through right afterwards and does like an immediate follow up, or it's like an immediate response to everything that has come to light. And for some people, it is going to be very uplifting. For other people, it is going to be something that triggers old wounds and old insecurities, because again, Pluto is entering the chat. Pluto's a part of this vibration. Saturn and Neptune is one thing. Uranus bringing unexpected things to light, bringing new exciting things to light over the course of the 22nd, the 23rd, and the 24th. His energy is a lot more understood by the time we get to the new moon. But Pluto's part of the vibration is either going to be facing a fear in this new moon, or understanding past power struggles, facing someone that triggers power dynamics, good, bad, or ugly, facing someone that has gone through major transformation, and also seeing the elements of transformation, because this is a new moon opposite that Pluto. Now, the moon's opposition to Pluto is actually going to go more exact between 2 and 4 p.m. So I put this at 3:30. It's a little bit closer. It's actually just past it. It was exact closer to that 3 o'clock range. And then all throughout the rest of the day, the sun is actually building its opposition to Pluto. The amount of busy work, of extra dynamics, of bouncing between multiple things, having layers of things going through the entire day on Thursday, it'll be one thing after another. And a lot of the one thing after another is because this went wrong or this went right, whatever it is. We got to do this. The extra person has to do this. Somebody has to go behind. We get follow-up calls afterwards because of the amount of actions and reactions that's coming through. Okay. When Pluto's involved, it can also have to do with plumbing. Some of you have heard me say that now, and then you actually have the plumbing issues, and then you get really mad at my DMs. That's a real thing too. All throughout the rest of the day, we don't have any more transits, but there is so much vibration in the early morning hours that I think that we're still just going to be busy all throughout the day. But we don't have any more direct transits until we get into the 25th. Now we're there. So now we're in Friday, and Friday is going to be a carryover in a lot of ways from whatever has happened through the week. It by itself does not have a whole lot of direct transits per se, but it does have the weighted energy of the sun hitting its full opposition to Pluto. And that actually happens at 1:30 in the morning. So I got the screen, 1:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Here is Pluto, 2 degrees, 35 minutes. Here is the sun, 2 degrees, 35 minutes. Now, for some people, this is still part of Thursday's vibration, but it's the late part of Thursday. I'm just showing you the most exact, and this is when we're going to talk about it. When the sun hits the exact opposition to Pluto, you could have done a bunch of changes throughout the day on Thursday, had a bunch of meetings, did a bunch of connections, had a bunch of people come through, spoke about certain things, pitching something new in business. And by the end of the day, we start telling somebody about our day and they're sour about it. For other people, it's the recognition of the change. Like, this is so great. I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you. There's so much possibilities. There's so much capabilities. Remember, Venus is square to Mars. You could be seeing somebody's passions coming through in a whole new way, and this being more of a positive mentality about it. And it's allowing someone to shine. For other people, you're going to meet bitterness. And the sun hitting that opposition of Pluto is like, I don't even know why you're trying. I don't even know why you try to do these things. I don't even know why you're putting forth an effort. And it does these things to trigger old wounds and old insecurities because it's Pluto. Good, bad, or ugly, the sun hitting the opposition to Pluto means we can face certain fears or face certain power dynamics, face certain power struggles, and how we perceive it and the judgment around it is by choice. You can choose to let somebody rain on your parade, or you can choose to walk away and not give them the time of day. It is a matter of choice. Now, we are in this vibration all day. It's just the most exact in the overnight. We were building to it late on Thursday going to this point. So again, that human effect is whatever the sun Pluto is might play out late Thursday evening, depending on your individual time zone. After this, our one and only our next transit will be our conjunction to Mercury. Now, what's interesting is, remember, Mercury is hosting a bunch of planets, and this will be the only Moon-Mercury conjunction during this retrograde. That's why I was saying the one and only. I apologize for any confusion I just almost created right there. Between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., so you can see it's almost exact right here. It goes exact closer to 10 a.m. Moon 13.8, Mercury is 13.24. We're coming to a conjunction with Mercury, and we're learning about the change of plans, the change in the paperwork, the change in the dialogue, the change in the process, the change in our ideas, the change in our opinion. We're having a discussion about the change. Now, whenever the moon hits the conjunction to Mercury, there's usually a vibration that speaks to accepting change, accepting a new idea, accepting a change in position. So this doesn't necessarily have to be bad. Now, again, Venus and Mars had their exact square this weekend, and part of this inner turmoil, inner desire, inner passion, a part of this can have to do with those confessions, whatever that was. I feel like we're going to see some people like have some confessions come to light this week. Other people are going to have secrets coming to light, and we're going to have certain discussions about the secrets. And this right here speaks to, is that secret true? Is this situation true? Did you really do this? Did this really happen? And considering the moon's hitting this conjunction to Mercury while the sun and Pluto are still in their opposition, this can be where we start to have really hard discussions about what has come to light this week. Did you hurt that person? Did you steal that money? Did you take this action? Did you remove support? Did you walk away? What'd you do? What did you do? And the moon hitting that conjunction to Mercury can really speak through a conversation about what has changed over the course of this week. And it can still have elements of trigger because of the sun-Pluto opposition. Now, after the moon-Mercury conjunction, there's nothing else going on to Friday. The moon is in Leo. It's a lot more of a fun energy. It's a lot more of an empowering energy. It's a lot more prideful. We want to be seen in different ways. And there are going to still be a lot of activities of us wanting to do certain things, but just be aware of that lingering effect from whatever was going on throughout the last few days, because it's feeding into this vibration. Now we're going to get into Saturday. Now we're going to get into the 26th. The moon is going to be in Leo all throughout the overnight hours. It is going to change signs in the afternoon, but it's not changing signs right now. It's not that it's void, but it is kind of got a lingering vibration to it. Whenever we get into the morning time, between 5 and 7 a.m., Venus is going to hit a sextile to the moon. Venus is in Mercury's sign. We've done a lot of changes. We've had certain things come to light. We've put certain passions into play. We're pushing certain actions. We're pushing certain tastes. Venus can be more of giving enlightenment to the desire, to the taste, to the ideas, to what we're doing. And this does not have to be a heavy thing. Some of us are going to be waking up Saturday morning wanting to act on certain things or play out certain things or go certain places. Some of us are going to be going certain places because of a change of plans that happened midweek of like, can you do this? Can you make this work? Can you make this happen? I know this wasn't a part of the plan, but can we? The moon hitting the sextile to Venus right there. Venus hitting the sextile with the moon can speak to that. Over the course of the morning between 9:30 and 11:30 a.m., I'm going to get this now at 10:30, Chiron is going to hit a trine to the moon because something went wrong, because something didn't happen the way that we expected, because something became an issue, a point of contention, a point of frustration. It has now allowed something else to come to light. And there can be a lot more pride in how we are working through a healing process or how we're working through the need to be compassion or understanding healing in a wound. Chiron is stationing. He's days away from going retrograde. This is why I keep saying like there's a hesitancy. And certain new wounds can be what pushes the hesitancy even more because something has gone wrong throughout the week. It has now created openings for additional actions that weren't necessarily a part of the plan, but that doesn't mean that it can't be helpful. So Chiron hitting the trine to the moon. Now, this is going to be felt between 9:30 and 11:30 a.m. After this, the moon is going to go void. So there's not going to be a whole lot of connection. It's still going to be prideful. It's still going to be helpful. It's still going to be about being seen and empowered. And this isn't a negative energy. At 3:56 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to go into Virgo. Now, the moon is going to go into Virgo and immediately start with a square from Uranus. The unexpected is pushing an action and it is pushing a reaction. And whatever starts to happen while the moon is in Virgo, I want people to take note of it. I wanted you to take note of what changes have happened over the course of the weekend because they've now pushed you into a different mentality. They've pushed you in front of something unexpectedly. And when the moon goes into Virgo, that's a big part of this, the unexpected part of the vibration. And the unexpected impact is now led to a change in policy, a change in plan, a change in procedure, a change in our desires. Certain secrets come into the surface, but now we need to talk through them. We need to strategize them. We need to understand them. And the one thing that I will say about the moon going into Virgo is there can be a lot of overthinking. We can also be thinking about the things that we want to change to safeguard ourselves or to create a new procedure or to create new environments of order. And I don't mean this in the controlling sense. I mean this in the sense of like, there's a method to the madness. And so much has gone through the week and has happened through the week that it is creating additional energy in that method to the madness. And it's like, we have to create the method because the madness is already shown. Certain things have not gone to plan this week because Mercury was retrograde. Now the moon is back in Mercury's sign going, okay, now that all this crap has happened over the week, I need to adjust. We need to adjust. We got to change our routine. We got to change a couple of things. And the moon going into Virgo can speak to the unexpected part of the vibration that is leading to this new round of change or adaptation that we weren't initially anticipating. We had to get through the week to get to this point. Now, Uranus, 0 degrees, 45 minutes. It goes through its exact square between 4:30 and 6:30 p.m. So we're right at the start of it right here. And again, as soon as the moon goes into this sign, it is starting that square from Uranus. Uranus is pushing an idea, pushing a plan, pushing a desire, pushing an opportunity with that square to the moon. Now, after this square from Uranus, there's not a whole lot going on. That doesn't mean that we still can't be busy, especially mentally busy. Our minds are busy. Mercury is retrograde while the moon is in Mercury's sign. So again, we have a lot of mental revisions that need to be done. As we get into the 27th, the moon is going to be in Virgo all day long. And there is only one direct transit to the 27th. And it happens between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. So I got this now at 12:30. And this is where Jupiter is going to hit a sextile to the moon. This is the doctor, the guru, the teacher, giving an idea, giving lessons, giving hope, giving additional information, giving guidance on how to handle the recent changes, on how to handle the procedure change, the policy change, the method change of what we are dealing with. Some people, we need to talk it out. We need to talk to somebody about what's been going wrong, what has not gone to plan, what is strategically changing around us, even if we didn't initiate part of the strategy. And we need that level of support. We need that energy from Jupiter to give guidance, to give hope, to give understanding about what we need to do, because a lot of this Mercury retrograde, again, has levels of exposure. It has things coming to light, reactions that we did not anticipate, frustrations that we did not anticipate. But in a lot of ways, we are going to be reacting and responding to them. And whenever we get to the end of the week, it feels like we need to put certain things into order that we didn't previously anticipate. And there requires like a critical mental analysis when the moon is going through Virgo. What has come to light? What confessions have happened? What desires have been pushed? What has that done to our lives? What has that done to our family? What is that doing in this moment? Do we accept certain desires? Are we willing to talk to that person that just confessed their feelings? Are we willing to entertain this person that speaks so highly about their desires and their passions? I've never considered this before. Could it work? For some people, it will, even if it's in the temporary energy. For some people, it creates opportunity. For other people, our minds are going to be spinning by the end of the week. What the fuck just happened? What's going on? How did I get here? This was so different a week ago. We had no idea what was going on. I had no idea what was happening. I didn't know what I didn't know. But opportunities have come through. For some people, the opportunity is going to be helpful. For other people, it's going to be infuriating. And it's going to feel like a setback. It is going to feel like a cutoff. And you're not going to know immediately how to respond to being cut off. Some of you are going to be a part of the confessions. Either you are confessing how you feel, or they are confessing themselves to you. And then afterwards, you got to go, do I cut them off? What do I do to protect myself? I'm not willing to entertain. Some people are not going to be willing to entertain anything. You look like a whole ass mess. And the only way I let anyone into my energy is if you look like a whole ass person on your own. Because I am a whole ass person on my own. I don't need you coming through and dysregulating my nervous system. You are not worth the crazy. You're not worth the mess. But once certain things get spoken, once certain boundaries are crossed, once certain truths are coming to light, you recognize really fast, oh, okay, I don't know if I want this here, if I'm willing to welcome this here. I don't know that I'm willing to entertain it. And even if the desired result was to be, received well, you cannot control how people receive. And their response can again be cutoffs. No, I look at you like a friend. You're like my brother. We've been around each other for so long. I've known you since we were kids. Why? No. And what will start to happen by the end of the week is our mind spinning about where we're going to be creating new boundaries, new walls. This was a line you crossed. Now there's a door and only I have the key. You're not allowed in. And there will be the critical analysis, the overthinking, even beyond what we would normally go into. Because some people are going to be kicking themselves for even opening their mouth. Why did I say that? Why did I tell her? I should have just kept my mouth shut. I don't know why. You felt like you could. The energy around Venus and Mars, I promise you, people are going to feel like they can say certain things, like they can do certain things, but you cannot control how it is received. And there are certain things, once they are done, they cannot be undone. We don't forget. It's always there. It's lingering in our mind. They said this thing, they did this to me. This is how they hurt me. This is what happened. I remember. Everything that gets taken afterwards, like a grain of salt. There's a little bit of bitterness with the sweet. There can be an underlying tone that we now see that we did not see before. And the dynamics of certain friendships and relationships will change. And by the end of the week, our minds will be spinning about that. If jealousy comes through this week in the Venus Mars, and I'm more focused on the things that could be potentially the shadow elements. If this was not happening in Mercury signs, I wouldn't be as heavy about this. But I'm looking at this Venus Mars square is happening in Mercury signs while Mercury is retrograde. Some people will accept certain things and it will lead to temporary vibration. It'll lead to situationships, and that is what it is. But for other people, if we've had this lingering vibration of insecurity, jealousy, that can be voiced this week too. And some of us need to have our practical conversations about how we overcome the jealousy, what we can do different, what we can do to save the relationship, what we can do to support our partner, what we can do to take critical actions into something different. For other people, your suspicions, that jealousy, the insecurity will get confirmed. And the revelation, the exposure will be, again, truths coming to light. This is a very revealing Mercury retrograde. And the things that get revealed can lead to that new long-term vibration of change, even if not each party is willing to accept it. I've caught you cheating. That's not just your work buddy. You've been doing stuff behind my back. I caught you. I found the text. I found it. I know you're not being truthful. I know you haven't been honest. I know you haven't been loyal. And whenever the moon goes into Virgo at the end of the week, we can be taking very necessary decisions, doing the critical analysis, the strategic steps, the planning to what we do next and where we go next. And if we're going to leave someone behind. Some people don't even realize they're about to get left behind, but they will. Whether they like it or not, they will. This is one of those retrogrades again. You do not want to get caught for being out of alignment, because the things that can come to the surface can completely derail everything that you've been working on. And for a lot of people, it'll be what sets you back to where you can't even get anything else going for the rest of the year, because everything turns into a reaction to what went wrong right here. Some people are going to be very compelled to act upon emotions in ways that they would not normally act upon them. And that action will lead to a reaction that, again, can create drama and create setbacks. This energy can be a test. And I'm very serious about that. So if you feel yourself being compelled to do something you would not normally do, checks and balances, ask yourself why. Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to go? What is the anticipation? What is the expectation? Check yourself as best as you can. Or remember, I'm running a special and you can set yourself up with me and I will check you. Yeah. Because on occasion, I'm the one that does it. Okay. Okay. I love and appreciate every single one of you. This is going to be a very intense week whenever it comes to emotions and desires and secrets and things coming up to the surface. And I am telling you, some people are not going to like what comes to the surface. If you are not in alignment or if you are feeling compelled to take certain actions, this is a test. This is a test. All right. I love and appreciate every single one of you. I will talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.